So, yesterday was a big tragedy. The camera app that I was using to record was hanging up towards the end of the video, basically corrupting the entire thing in one go. I tried to salvage what I could, but so many frames of video was lost during that, so I decided that there was nothing there to be salvaged, and the episode as such would go not publicly, at least, and there was nothing to cut and make it proper. So today is a new day, and that means that we will re-record more or less, or retrace exactly what was being said and done. I'll try that. Hopefully it works better this time. The topic that I want to then now continue on again is about mental wellness. I briefly started to talk about it on the previous episode towards the end, and I thought that there's a lot of things to be discussed about this, and my own reflections, what can be done to maybe make it more easy or helpful not to have it. I'll sit down in my usual little spot here. Let's see here if we can get some good picture quality. Okay. So my own experience with this, where I myself had a very hard issues, already started back when I was kind of bullied in school. Not super bullied or anything. I mean, I wouldn't say I was bullied the worst in school or anything, but there were some bullies, and I had a good amount of friends that helped me bring me through that situation, for sure. Nothing in particular to mention there, but of course, any form of bullying, it affects you. So I wanted to put that on record, at least, that's the background that I'm coming from. My first real experience on depression and mental wellness being really low came when I had my job as a shift worker. And what had happened was that I took about half a year off because I wanted to pursue like a teaching career. So I enrolled into a high school, university for that, and I had saved money prior to that from the same shift work to make it through at least a portion of it. And then the idea was that if it was something I wanted to continue on, then I would pursue other means of getting finances. I started it, and the finances that I've saved up dwindled slowly down, of course. And towards the half-year end, while I did enjoy the work, I realized that from the perspective of making money doing that job, and the finances that I would need to further invest in it was not sufficient, and that led me to the decision to stop the education. But I had been using up most of my savings at that point, and the bills were piling up in a corner. That ended up being a really big stress to me, of course. I never asked, for example, for assistance or help with getting those bills paid on time. The decision then came to me to try and solve it on my own, and that decision, the only way to do that was to get more job, basically. I went back to my shift job after that, after coming back from the half year, but I needed more money. So I took on a second job that I had for every second week. And that was and that helped me through the financial crisis. But it also built up completely towards sleep deprivation and stress, exhaustion, and I would say mental wellness issues. It came to a point where I basically felt that nothing was worth anything, even not myself. At least it never went so far that I lost complete value in my own life. It came maybe pretty close to that, but never so far. But many other things was completely down for me. I still maintained everything like my everyday life, and I still worked, but there were moments like that came through, and it was pretty tough, that's for sure. So I have full understanding for people who are living through these times on a daily basis, how they must feel about going through a life and then thinking about waking up the same way in the next day. Makes perfect sense to have that kind of feeling of not wanting to do that. But I would also say that my salvation in all of this, while at the same time being the cause of it, was work, because when I had those feelings, I usually tended to work even more than I usually do, because that kept my mind off things of that nature, basically. So I didn't have the time or the luxury to think about it too much. It was during the times where I had the time to think about it that it kind of developed. It kind of became something bigger than what it more than usual. But yeah, one first takeaway from this: it was caused by kind of a crisis, financial. You felt so much exhaustion and became sleep deprived that caused the issue. And on the flip coin, continuing to do that and even more helped me just not think about it so hard, you could say. But you definitely still felt that there was a situation there that could have turned to the worst. Luckily it did not. Looking then at the job I had while I was working on ships, I saw a lot of mental wellness issues. And I touched upon it in the last episode, but when you're segregated from your family and your friends, and you're going down into this spiral of a poor mental wellness, there's not so much safety nets that can help you when you're so separated from everybody. And that's when you see these cases of suicides and so on happening, which is very unfortunate, but they do happen. But I've seen several cases of lighter cases of mental illness, or several cases I would say. But one of the most hardest cases that I ever saw was a guy I was sailing with, and again this ties a little bit back to work and when you have time to think about these things too much. So he was an officer, same like me, but I was higher rank than him, and we were coming into a time sailing through the Pacific Ocean, south part of the Pacific Ocean during winter time. Pretty bad weather, rough weather most of the time. And on top of that, then we were gonna have a audit. An audit basically means that an auditor comes on board and checks up on everything safety and standards wise, that the vessel has been in compliance and is doing okay with that. And if they're not something that is not in compliance, that they have been rectified, they're going to be rectified at some point by doing repairs, getting spare parts and so on. But this guy, he was I don't know, maybe he already then had mental issues, but he was lagging behind horribly in his area of responsibility. And this was pointed out to him, and it was stated that, look man, we're gonna have this auditor soon. You basically have nothing here ready, so you need to start doing that really soon, or we can end up having issues and problems. And I don't know what happened, but probably he was already unstable at that point, but this further knocked him off his shelf, basically. He became really unbalanced as a person. From maybe smoking half a pack of cigarettes every day, he started to smoke 2 packs a day, shaking uncontrollably at times. Sometimes I would come up to the bridge and I wouldn't be able to find where he was, but he was maybe sitting somewhere outside, just in his own little bubble, not maintaining any proper watch keeping at the time. And I pointed this out, of course, to the administration on board, that from my point of view, I would just want to see this guy get back home, and if that meant that the rest of us would do more work, then so be it. But I definitely didn't feel safe being on board the same ship as that guy, because anything can happen at sea if you're not paying attention to it. But yeah, he made it through the turn. He didn't manage to get the auditor satisfied, that's for sure. And he was on a flight back home soon after. And so was I as well, because I was also coming to my turn, end of contract. But I was for certain that that guy could have done exactly that, commit suicide at any point. He was actually asking me if to wake him up in the middle of the night, just so that he could go outside on the deck and do maintenance. And I said, but who's going to watch your back? You're going to be all alone out there in the middle of the night. Maybe some deck lights is showing, but nobody's going to see you. Something happens to you. So I never made that phone call. I never woke him up. And I tried to explain to him why the next day. I don't know if you saw any reason in it, but that's what it is. But yeah, you can still see I have some issues with my phone. Maybe there's something with the memory card, because the app keeps hanging up constantly. And I'm afraid that even this video may end up in a dumpster because of quality issues, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. My main takeaway from all of this is, however, sleep deprivation plays a part because of mental wellness, because it weakens your body, and you just need that stability in your system to cope with it in a good way. Another part of it is, of course, exhaustion. and exhaustion in the combination of having moments in your time in your life that you can actually think about it and reflect upon it more, that also leads to it. And if you don't have anybody except yourself to reflect upon during those times, like a psychologist, then those thoughts can pretty fast turn into a negative sensation, to a negative direction. So if you feel that you would ever have that, then going through those thoughts with a psychologist instead of just by yourself is advisable. Anyways, hope most of this makes it through to a video this evening. I'm actually going to Denmark for today because I'm going to have an x-ray after my surgery that I had almost close to 1 month now. And also going to go into the office a little bit, so I'll probably shoot some videos on that coming in, maybe in some other episode or during this episode towards the end, if I have very little material for it. Anyways, hope everybody have a good day. Talk to you hopefully tomorrow, if my mobile phone can take it. Bye. Well, as you can see them, right, then now is a requirement to have facial masks when going to Denmark, and I'm actually going to the ferry, and as soon as I board the ferry, then I need to wear it. So have it ready here, and then let's buckle up, shall we? See you on the other side. I'm up on the sun deck right now. I couldn't take that anymore. So fresh air should mean that I can at least take this one off before I choke on it.
Jeg låner din kamp, så jeg skal sidde og lægge hele kufferten.
Jeg er bange for, at jeg ikke lægger min kamp. Så har jeg fået...
Velkommen i toget mod København og